We're doing the Delney run back. Hello folks, Phil Gallagher, aka ThrabenU here for another Legacy video, and today we're going to try a Delney deck again. Kevin has asked me to brew around this card, and probably a couple months back we tried Delney with Reckless Pyrosurfer, and the conclusion of that league was Reckless Pyrosurfer was pretty sweet, but that Delney was often being sideboarded out for other utility cards. So we're going to make another attempt today. Delney has some relevant abilities, and I think we're going to try pairing it with a new Lorwyn card and see how it works out. I will say I had some trouble brewing around this one. So one of my first thoughts was, what about Soul Sisters? And in trying to make all of the numbers work in the main deck, I was just finding that Delney was easily the most cuttable thing there. So conceptually, it seemed cool to double up on the life gain triggers, but once some of the Ajani's Pridemate style creatures were a little bigger, they would stop doubling their abilities. So, Then I tried a Mardu energy shell, and just could not make the numbers work. I could not get Delney into the deck while keeping more than like 4 black cards. So here's what I came up with. I think the idea of doubling up on Hexing Squelcher ward triggers is kind of cool. In my mind, Hexing Squelcher is currently in the needs more testing to see how it does in kind of these aggro mid-rangey energy shells. The abilities on this card are strong and relevant. In the last league that I played, one thing that I noticed was that my small creatures were just getting stalled by larger creatures, and Delney solves that problem since creatures you control with power 2 or less can't be blocked by creatures with power 3 or greater. So in addition to doubling up the triggers from all of these various energy creatures, I also get to just attack with my small creatures. The flex slots here, I think, are the 3 copies of Esper Sentinel that I have thrown into the deck. These are a little questionable, but I wanted more 1-drop plays that worked with Delney later on in the game, and Esper Sentinel fit that bill exactly. I'm going a little conservative with the mana base, playing fewer copies of Wasteland than this deck normally does. I want to cast my spells very, very consistently here, and I want to make sure that I can go white-white or red-white on turn 2 to play multiple cards when I need to. So I'm going to play an Inspiring Vantage as plateau number 5. There's already a little bit of life loss baked into the mana base, as I'm going to try a couple of Sunbaked Canyons here as well. Now, a concern that I have in trying to use this shell as the Delney shell is that at the beginning of the game, Amped Raptor hitting Delney is a whiff, and these Boros and Mardu energy decks are normally constructed in a way where Amped Raptor does not miss in game 1 unless you hit Swords to Plowshares and your opponent is playing no creatures. So this is something that we just kind of have to be aware of, but Amped Raptor hitting just about any other card is totally solid here. I don't have too much to say about the sideboard here. I'm a little lighter than I might like on cards that answer something like an Ensnaring Bridge. If we were to get locked behind that, it's basically just the Meltdown that gets us out of that. But we have direct damage routes to victory as well with Goblin Bombardment and the Planeswalker side of Ajani here, so hopefully that's fine. I've intentionally not put Clarion Conqueror in the deck, as last time it just made sense to sub Clarion Conqueror for Delney 100% of the time in the league that we played. So with that being said, let's go ahead and hop into some matches here. And folks, if you decide you need your Hexing Squelchers or any other cards from Lorwyn Eclipsed, please consider checking out my sponsor, TOAMagic.com, and use my promo code ThrabenU to save a little bit on your order. Plus, you always get free shipping, great customer service. Plus, look at this logo. Isn't it sweet? Sometimes you get a sticker when you order. Who doesn't love stickers? Alright, let's battle. Alrighty, opening hand looks fine. I can potentially play this specific game on basics kind of based on the hand here. Pretty likely to line up Delney Squelcher. Since we are not playing a Mardu version, we are very much going to be hoping to play against fair decks today. The Mardu version has about 7 discard spells in game 1, 4 Thoughtseize, 3 Cabal Therapy to make it so that you have a reasonable game 1 shot versus combo. And opponent says hello to YouTube. Let's grab ye old basic plains and throw down an Esper Sentinel. Basic mountain. Oh no, the aforementioned combo that I talked about. Hate that. I don't think I get to hold that up. We'll grab the basic mountain. If I suspect this is combo, thing that produces the most power in theory sounds good. I might just want to play that after a Delney, get 2 cats. I'm just going to do this Squelcher anyway. My opponent has the ability to remove my creatures via something like a Grape Shot or some tutor target. Makes it more punishing to do so. But we potentially just die. Oh, this is so much more pleasant. The back of my mind was like, what if it's just Painter? What if it's just Painter and there's a singleton LED? And I didn't even want to vocalize it because I thought it was ridiculous. Okay, nice. I do hit the next land drop. I just have to remove the engineer. Just 100% of the time here. I will plateau, junk the engineer, play a cat. So Delney's big service to me here is probably just going to be pushing my creatures through some blockers. If my opponent gets something like Urza Saga tokens going, I could use some Esper Sentinel card draw right now. Basic Mountain number 3? I don't remember this one. This is loot or make a robot. Got it. My opponent could technically sacrifice their entire hand to make a 2/2 token. I think I would be okay with that. Yeah, I think I will just go ahead and swing in with everybody. Yeah. Opponent takes the hit going to 11. And next turn, I can double the mobilize trigger with Delney, which is sweet. I do have to worry about just dying to Painter Servant. Grindstone, activate. Like that is very real and on the table right now. It's another Painter Servant, sure. Everything is very blue. So if 2 of my creatures are blocked, I'm probably not representing lethal. My opponent doesn't have Grindstone, or I would already be dead. If I play Delney, I get double amped Raptor next turn. Kind of into that. So now we're going to go to Punchies. This always attacks, this always attacks. And then it starts to get a little more interesting from there. I think this is just shove. So double Voice of Victory tokens. And then opponent can decide what they do. Oh, the fear. Alright, that's fine. I can lose a Ajani, put my opponent to 1. Then lose my tokens and hope that my opponent does not top deck a Grindstone. That is an Ensnaring Bridge. Opponent needs to get down to 0 cards in hand, which I don't think they're doing. Oh no, they have LED, actually. Okay, that works too. This explains why my opponent was so afraid of Ajani. That's unfortunate for me. This was one of the cards that I specifically said in the deck that I was not great against. My opponent can never remove my creatures. So I think I will play an Amped Raptor. Double trigger. Nice. What was I worried about? Why do I need to worry about an Ensnaring Bridge? What a fool ThrabenU from 30 seconds ago was. GG's. Alright, so we are playing against Painter. So, like, the Null Rods, the Meltdowns are good. I'll probably play Rest in Peace. And I can think about Path as additional white removal. So I think the question here is, what is coming out? I don't know that I will have 7 slots. I might not need Path with Swords and Galvanic Discharge and these 5 cards coming in. Squelcher is okay. Squelcher means that Pyroblast is not countering my spells when my opponent has Painter. How is Delney here? Delney is okay versus Urza Saga tokens, is okay versus a Fury that sticks around. The double triggers can be relevant. I might be looking at this stuff. I think I'm going to keep a Delney and cut the Esper Sentinels. I'm not sure about that, though. It may just be like keeping an Esper Sentinel for the curve is nice. May also be that I'm over-evaluating Hexing Squelcher here. This is a solid opening hand. I'll keep this one. Basic Mountain and pass. Great. I'm not under the gun. I will take that. My opponent has a ton of basic mountains that feel like they should be snow-covered and aren't. Means my wasteland is significantly worse. Mountain 2? Fable, absolutely. Do I want Voice of Victory now? I kind of just want Amped Raptor, and sometimes I hit a removal spell that gets rid of this Goblin Shaman. I also can hit Delney here since I have Guide of Souls. We get a Hexing Squelcher. Sure. That's 2 energy, so no attack this turn. I do have a First Striker, though, so my opponent can't safely swing in with the Goblin Shaman token. Opponent junks Pyroblast, maybe meaning that they don't have Painter immediately. There's Urza's Saga. That's a Goblin Engineer. I would like to find a removal spell for that. My opponent already has something that they can grind out some value with. Alright, they are just going for the Dragon Engine. You've got it. So I have a choice of which land to play. I imagine that Urza's Saga ends up being better. I'm going to roll the dice with Amped Raptor again. I could Surveil before this. I think it's just more important to answer Urza's Saga immediately. Ha ha ha! That's why we're playing that card, baby. So, goodbye graveyards. Where do I want these counters stacked up? I want to make it harder to remove the Guide of Souls itself. I would trade Squelcher for Goblin token here, I think. So trigger. That is Lightning Bolt on the Guide of Souls. So there's the Ward 2 pay 2 life on Squelcher. Opponent let me attack, though, so this trigger still happens. So now I can say yes and put those counters onto the Squelcher. Now it flies and can't trade with the Goblin Shaman token in combat. I think my opponent could have used that Lightning Bolt earlier. So then junk Urza Saga as well. So this is still going to be annoying. Ooh, opponent needs the mana. I will first strike that away. Hoping for no ensnaring bridge. Yeah, that's right. So my 2/1 nice. My 2/1 creatures can still attack here. That's the good news. I'll get 4 points of damage in this way. Opponent to 8. I will Surveil. Don't need another Rest in Peace. Then I will play out a Voice of Victory, which can hopefully attack next turn and then do a ton with Goblin Bombardment. Alright, there's another land. There's a Welder and a Painter's Servant. I hate it. Now none of my creatures can attack. I'm going to fetch. I've used my 1 Surveil land. I'll get the basic plains here. I will get another Squelcher in play. And I will go ahead and cast this now. I have 5 creatures in play. My opponent is at 8 life. I need to find 3 more creatures. Or alternatively, like, attack with a Voice of Victory once or twice. Alright, that's more Painter's Servant. Things are more blue. This is why Sunbaked Canyons are in the list. You get a redraw. There's an Ocelot Pride. Opponent is now effectively at 2 life. And you can copy a Goblin Engineer, 2 thin artifacts out of your deck. So the fear here is that my opponent hits a Pyroblast and blows up Goblin Bombardment before I find something that lets me finish this game. Or, you know, Grindstone and I literally die. And the copy goes away. That's an Ajani. That's quite good, but not quite as good as it might otherwise be. But this will just be 8 creatures and Goblin Bombardment goes to face. But I don't get the Planeswalker because I am playing Rest in Peace. Luckily, I don't need it here. And this was very much proof of concept for the Delney deck. GG's. Today's video is sponsored by Moxfield.com. If you're looking to store your decks online, you're not going to find a better website. It's super organized and easy to use, and I sort everything that I do into a ton of format-specific folders, and you can customize the way that you use Moxfield to your liking. Whether you like text views or visual views of multiple different natures, Moxfield has it all. And it's so easy to use, you might even say that it's a snap. All right. Opening hand is fine. Are you playing nothing, or are you just a second main phase hipster? Alright, I will make fun of you for being a second main phase hipster. And a Tamiyo. I'm not super well set up to deal with that as of right now. Do I get a plateau? I don't really want to get wastelanded in the short term. I'm just going to play an Ocelot Pride. I think next turn I basically always need to play Hexing Squelcher versus expected blue deck. There's a Ponder and a very fast shuffle. Okay, there is another land. I will wasteland the shit out of that land though. 19. No life total change. Nice. So do you have the swords? Oh nice, they didn't. Then I will just wasteland Tundra immediately, not let my opponent easily clue. You've got Stifle. Alright. Ocelot Pride starts to trigger. Again, that doesn't super matter versus Tamiyo that flips. Alright. Raucous means that Delney is worse. Tamiyo makes clues. I do have to worry about like Ophelia being flashed in. I think I'm not going to miss points of damage to play around that though. 17. And we're squelching. That's cracking a clue. Ridiculous Archive. Tamiyo clue. So now the thing to think about is like a swords here followed by a counter spell. I might just want to play my cards out of order here. Not going to though. Alright, there's cracking a clue. Alright, there's swords. Now this becomes counterable. Does get countered. I will play a new Hexing Squelcher. Opponent down to 13. Tamiyo is doing so much work. Another clue. Now my opponent can double crack. Oh no, it's Murktide. That's worse. And Riddler. That transforms Tamiyo. Thanks, I hate it. This is gonna kill me pretty quickly. I will fetch a basic mountain. Get a Voice of Victory. Getting some life here for my spells, which is not great. No fear. Opponent lets it through. Smart. Tamiyo plus, super annoying. Opponent fetches. And fetches again. Gonna be the Riddler. Seems good. I get hit for roughly half my life total. I think I have to hit a removal spell here or I die. So let's take a redraw. Let's take a redraw. None of those will do it. So I can give Tamiyo a love tap, but Tamiyo's plus took so much damage off the board there. Tamiyo just soloed that game, and Murktide Regent was the dagger in my heart at the end. GG. So I'm definitely interested in Pyroblast. It answers everything that I need it to. And the question from there is, am I interested in Path and like Rest in Peace? Both are fine, but not overly exciting. I don't think I want Rip. I want the possibility of my Planeswalker flipping. Am I upgrading Discharge to Pyroblast, or am I also keeping Discharge just because answering Tamiyo immediately matters so much? It might just matter so much that I keep it in there. I didn't keep track, but Tamiyo made something like 6 clues that game. This is fine. I do have to fetch Plateau, though. So let's do that. And throw down Guide of Souls. Opponent fetches. And there is a Tamiyo. The Wasteland not casting my spell here is kind of annoying. I think I'm going to let my opponent do a Tamiyo thing once. And attempt to resolve Voice of Victory here. Alright. Very nice. I think I just want this utility. There's Tundra. They do have the swords, unfortunately. And Tamiyo does the thing. I'd like to draw another land here. Now I think I am just doing this before ThrabenU gets further out of control and hoping my opponent does not have Brainstorm. Cool, they did not. And this is why I went down on Wastelands in my build. Not being able to double spell is rough. I'm going to Wasteland the Tundra, and I'm just a little upset about it. Oh, shit. Why did we not? Alright. I guess I'm not Wastelanding the Tundra. Yikes. Alright. Stoneforge Mystic. I would love one of these cards to be live. Getting an actual factual Batterskull. Alright, miss. So I guess I am taking out Tundra now. It's worse than taking out Tundra when I intended on taking out Tundra, but c'est la vie. Alright, opponent does just have the mana for their thing. Oh, they didn't fetch immediately. I get to punish that so hard. So now they fetch, and I Swords Stoneforge, and they don't get to put Batterskull into play. Alright. Have recovered from my misplay earlier. Crack Clue. There's a Brainstorm. And the fetch to clear. New Stoneforge, which is fine as long as I hit a red mana. Getting a Meteor Sword. That is not a red mana. Thanks, I hate it. I'll get my energy. And unfortunately pass the turn here. On activating this immediately. Blowing up my land. Makes sense. And surveilling. At 4 mana, they probably can pay for Esper Sentinel without giving me cards or even changing their game plan. 3 mana. Oh, hate that too. This might be the point where I just concede and move to the next one. Like, this Batterskull is coming. My life is bad. Oh, fuck. My opponent's playing a Stifle. I should have fetched. I know that I am always looking for land with my Surveil. Alright, that's Murktide. That's real bad. I don't realistically think I beat Murktide and Batterskull, unless I can, like, pick exactly what happens with my Amped Raptor and my draws for the rest of the game. Yeah, alright. That was a beating. GG's. Alright, opening hand is mana heavy. I get a redraw, but I don't think this is better than just mulliganing. This is fine. I think I'm going to get rid of Galvanic Discharge under the rationale that Caracas Bounce ThrabenU does something similar. Arid Mesa and pass. Sure. Now am I okay with 2 basics for the beginning of the game? I think I'm definitely okay with basic planes on 1. Then we'll see what happens from there. We'll see if this is an energy mirror, or if my opponent's something like a Jeskai control deck. Be Mardu Energy. In which case they have Bowmasters for Ocelot Pride, and that would be super annoying. Yep, looking like Mardu Energy. Yeah, there we go. There's the Bowmasters. I think I'm just going to play Amped Raptor in the hopes of getting on board a little more here. Continue to play on basics. Voice of Victory is cool. That's a lot of power. 3rd land drop for my opponent. Their own Amped Raptor. Hitting another Bowmasters. Fuck, their Bowmasters are so good. My attacks with Voice of Victory are not good here. And I wish Hexing Squelcher was in play before my opponent got to ping all my shit with Bowmasters. I think my opponent is very, very favored for this mirror. I think Bowmasters is such a huge deal. Alright, yep. Guide of Souls is cool. It's nice with Voice of Victory. I can make Voice of Victory fly. I'm not quite there yet. I'm thinking about Surveil Land versus immediate redraw. I think Surveil Land. I'll just pass here, hold back the Voice of Victory body. Alright, land drop 4 for my opponent. Immediate Surveil Land. Maybe they have another Amped Raptor. Saying no to Swords. A new Voice of Victory, got it. Are we still staring at each other? Yes. So I'll fetch. Get my 1 Surveil Land. Say no to land. Alright, a new Voice of Victory. I am almost certainly playing that card. And I don't want to redraw with the Bowmasters in play. Let's go to Punchies. Attack with Voice of Victory. Guide of Souls trigger on bottom. Mobilize 2. Always yield to these energy things. Say yes. Counters go on Voice of Victory. And then I'll sack my tokens at end of turn. That feels like an early concession to me, but I'll take it. I think my opponent is favored as this goes along, but the short-term double voice of victory thing might just be too much for my opponent to recover from if they don't have a spot removal spell this turn. GG's. I have basically nothing here. I will probably play 2 Paths over 2 Esper Sentinels since they just die so easily to Bowmasters. I could play a Containment Priest as a flash creature. Flash 2/2 is not overly exciting. Yeah, I think this is what I'm doing. Opening hand is okay. I think I'll keep it. I can Galvanic Discharge an early Guide of Souls or whatever. I don't love that this is my starting land. And these lands are quite bad in this particular matchup. You've got it. Ocelot Pride is fine. Alright, well, let's get Guide of Souls out of here. So this only costs me 2 energy, so I'll keep 1 around for a little bit later. I'm legitimately unsure what my opponent is going to take with that Thoughtseize. Basic Plains and an Ocelot Pride. Alright. Well, as much as I would love to wasteland my opponent, I don't know that I get let to get this just start going. So I think I'm going to play a blocker. I think I'm going to play the one that represents 2 separate bodies. Make my cat. How much loyalty do you have on the back? Starting loyalty of 3? Yeah, that's fine. So you can attack my Planeswalker, and then I can make a new Ajani. Playing Voice of Victory here, or Ajani. Alright, opponent just gives up. GG, I guess. I am probably favored to win from there, like, with the Planeswalker and 2 bodies on board. But my opponent gave me the opportunity to flip this in a way that they did not have to. Alright. Opening hand is fine. More cats. I'll take it. Oh, there will be some question how to follow this up. I imagine that if this is a blue deck, Hexing Squelcher is just the follow-up. And it is. So now we start playing the game of, is this beans? Is this show and tell? Alright, I think I have figured out the game. It is show and tell. How the fuck can I thread a win here? Oh, I don't know that I can. So this gives energy, but not another card. Do I show Squelcher? I'll show Squelcher. No, I can just cast Squelcher. I'll show another Ocelot Pride. It probably doesn't matter. Like, my opponent probably just Emrakul's me here, or whatever. There's another Omniscience. Yeah, no. Could be worse. Not dead yet. Surely will be dead in a second, though, right? Third draw 3 of the game. Of the turn, even. Oh, apparently it's not resulting in a win. My god. I lived, bitch. My opponent just has 7 counterspells in hand. I give them the middle finger with double Hexing Squelcher. 15. Who else is up squelching their hexes? Slot Pride triggers. Very nice. This kills somewhat quickly. Alright, now we're back to casting things. Fetch to clear. Alright. That'll do. And now my opponent just gets triple Emrakul or equivalent. Wish, whatever. Cunning Wish. So now my opponent is presumably going to get something like Firemind's Foresight, which lets them wish for another Cunning Wish. Oh no, we're just gonna cut the middleman here and just tutor for 2 creatures directly. Will presumably be Atraxa Emrakul. Seems good. And then we'll look at these 10 cards and concede to Emrakul. Alright, so opponent's build has the One Ring. And also has Veil of Summer. GG's. So I would like to replace my spot removal spells with things that interact with my opponent's stuff. Pyroblast, great. Containment Priest, I guess technically playable, but doesn't do the thing if my opponent is going for Omniscience. This does. I probably want to put these in the deck. It technically can disrupt my opponent's combo, not in an exciting way. And I probably trim to Delney to make that happen. I could do this for the One Ring. I don't know that hedging against the One Ring is better than just trying to keep the largest number of creatures that get my opponent dead. Alright, opening hand has Guide of Souls, Squelcher, Containment Priest. Again, we don't expect Containment Priest to be a great hate card. I don't know if I even keep this. I could Wasteland my opponent. If I Wasteland my opponent, I can't keep deploying cards. I don't know that this is good enough. This has a lot more potential to go aggro. I'm going to keep this. I don't know what goes back. I think it's going to be Bombardment. It might be Amped Raptor. It might be that if I assemble Ocelot Pride, Guide of Souls, Goblin Bombardment as the finisher is very strong. I think I'm still getting rid of it. And I think I start on Esper Sentinel in the hopes that sometimes this draws me another card so that I can Guide of Souls, Ocelot Pride immediately. Yeah, alright, it does. Very nice. Delney, not what I'm looking for right now. We trimmed 2 of the 3 Delneys to lower the curve. Hopefully my next card is a land. Nice. So is there any timeline where I want to Amped Raptor immediately? I don't think so. And I think I want to play 2 creatures over Squelcher here. And on in. And make my friend. So the goal here is just clock. Alright, tapped land is fine. At such a disadvantage here not being a Mardu version. And I hit anything super interesting with Amped Raptor. I can hit Deafening Silence. That feels like a big deal. Let's take the gamble on that. I accept. Opponent can pay for the Esper Sentinel tax this time. Send in. Opponent to 14. It'll probably have a 2-turn clock. I don't know that I get 2 turns. It has Shifting Woodland in there. Oh, hate it. Squelcher? I think I will Squelcher. Alright, opponent does give me the energy. Alright, if they're going to do that anyway, I think you just probably pop it so that I don't get the extra energy in life. So I can play 2 Guide of Souls on my turn. I am just dead to the combo though, right? What if my opponent only puts in a creature and my creatures are unblockable? It is Omniscience. 2 cards remaining. That's the One Ring. That's bad. That EE was so good. My opponent gets another draw 3. Alright, I'm not dead, technically. Humorously, if this was a Spider Punk here, I would be able to do damage through the One Ring. So there's Voice of Victory. Guide of Souls will double trigger. So I think I go ahead and attack and buff my creatures still. Or do I not want to buff them? The 1 + 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. This is lethal next turn through a creature that's put into play. I think I don't attack. Now, opponent is going to get at least 3 more cards here, right? 2 from the One Ring plus draw step plus any cantrips that they draw. This is still quite bad for me. Yeah. So I technically survive that. One Ring triggers again, opponent to 9. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I get to keep 3 permanents. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Need to deal 9. Delney Voice Guide of Souls will do that. Alright. Eat 15. Down to 10. Mystic Sanctuary. And put Lorien Revealed on top. Yep. Then opponent will get a draw 3, followed by another draw 3. 10 cards in hand. Oh, wipe away on Guide of Souls. I need a land? Not hit a land. So I send in, I double mobilize, hit my opponent to 2. The One Ring is in play. So, do you have a Stifle? Ah! That was supposed to be a joke. That was supposed to be funny. They weren't really supposed to have that. I was supposed to win. Good guys win, bad guys lose. No, we do not live to tell the day. Tell the tale versus Emrakul, unfortunately. Now, even if we luck out and win that one, we still have to win another one, and I think I'm at a very big disadvantage in this matchup without the discard. GG's. Alright, opening hand is fine if we are playing against a deck where these removal spells are fine, and opening hand is very weak if we are not. So this is going to be a high variance hand. Polluted Delta, Underground Sea, Dark Ritual, well, shit. Insert discussion of not being on Mardu, and thus being at a massive disadvantage. Alright, looks like opponent's build has Teferis in it. We've got Tamiyo, game 1 Barrogoyf, Brazen Borrower. I guess I leave open a removal spell here. My opponent should just build a pile that doesn't lose to that. But it could, I guess, be relevant. Alright, very nice. Do the thing. There's Edge of Autumn. Brainstorm. 2 cards remaining. Basic Island. Cycle Street Wraith down to 6 life. There's Lotus Petal. Opponent needs to draw 1 more card here. Alright, there's Thassa's Oracle. I will go ahead and Galvanic Discharge that. Alright, opponent did not build a pile that beat a spot removal spell. I'll take it. GG's. Maybe with the basic island in their pile, they were trying to build something that beat Wasteland, and they did not succeed in just beating spot removal instead. So I need to respect the Tamiyo and Barrogoyfs and potentially sideboard Murktides or more Barrogoyfs or whatever here. And Bowmasters is generically kind of good against my deck. Deafening Silence does some stuff versus Doomsday piles. Sometimes it is not overly exciting. The biggest thing it does is shut off Dark Ritual into Doomsday. I think I'm going to board these out. I'm going to turn these into Pyroblasts. Those answer Tamiyos and Teferis, and I can throw them at a random cantrip. It's a hit that's not great off Amped Raptor, though. And I think I'm going to board these in. Sorry, Delney. I just need to lower my curve here. I don't know what to do with the last slot. I'll maybe trim 1 Esper Sentinel, knowing that my opponent has Bowmasters. Seems okay. This is medium. It has outs to a Tamiyo. It has double Ocelot Pride. The tapped land is kind of a big deal here. I think I'm going to fish for better than this. Also tapped land. I think I'll keep this one, though. Bombardment Voice of Victory is super cool. I don't know if it's cooler than Amped Raptor. I think Bombardment goes back in the deck, and I'll keep Swords to hedge against Tamiyo. Singleton Elegant Parlor biting me in the butt a little bit here. I'm going to hope in 2 draws I get another untapped land. Negative. I think I'm going to throw down the Deafening Silence now. And just have a slightly below average turn 2. Deafening Silence, again, not overly exciting as a hate card here. Alright, untapped land. That's a really big deal. So now, which one? I think I go for Voice of Victory immediately, due to the synergy with Guide of Souls. Good enough for a response from my opponent. This might just be them using their mana. It is. Alright, cool. I mean, that makes it so that it's not answering an Amped Raptor. I'll take it. There's a Swords. I'll take a little damage. 16. I think I'm fine with Guide of Souls immediately into Amped Raptor. We keep putting off this whole Elegant Parlor situation for a little while longer. Deafening Silence is more than 1 non-creature. I can still go Guide of Souls into Amped Raptor into a potential spell. Most things other than Pyroblast are fine here. Another Amped Raptor. I will cast that, and that will give me more energy. But it does not do the whole pseudo cascade thing because I did not cast it from a hand. I have a respectable amount of power in play, and I have the ability to make things fly with Guide of Souls. Another Bowmasters. You've got it. Alright, if opponent is not doing the Doomsday thing, I should slowly start pulling ahead. Oh yeah. So, bam. Let's just always yield to this Guide of Souls nonsense. Make my cat. Go to punchies. Let's turn this into something that doesn't die to Bowmasters. Yes. And I'm good with this. I don't need to cast swords immediately. Ocelot Pride is great. Well, great versus the fair stuff. Doesn't do anything versus Doomsday. But opponent can't Dark Ritual into that, and they have basic Island here. So we might just kind of catch them stumbling on mana. Thought sees me. I will swords your 2-power creature there. You gain 2 life, you lose 2 life. I consider that a positive for me. My opponent can't cast anything else this turn. That's great. Then I do Ocelot Pride, gain some more, go to combat. You can attack. I don't care if you get blocked. You can also attack. And we'll put the counters onto Guide of Souls. Bam. Opponent takes all of that, going to 6. Then I have the City's Blessing. Gain some more. Presumably I just have very easy lethal next turn, even through a removal spell. Dark Ritual. You have a Goyf. You have a Goyf. I have a gajillion D power worth of flyers. Fly, fly, fly. And we have gotten the GGs there. I think we were lucky to win game 1. And that basic island on the other side of the battlefield might have done a lot of favors for us in terms of keeping our opponent off of a Doomsday. GGs. All right. So where do we fall on Delney, and where do we fall on the deck list? Overall thoughts on the deck list. Totally fine and solid. That was a 3-2 finish. I do think that we don't have enough tools versus combo, but I don't know how you build this in black. So presumably if you're in black, you want a minimum of 4 Thoughtseizes and 4 Bowmasters. And even if you cut the Hexing Squelchers and went down on removal, like it feels rough to go down on removal when ThrabenU is so centralizing to the metagame. And I do think I want this card. So you could do 4 Thoughtseizes, 4 Bowmasters, 1 Cabal Therapy. You end up going down on your creature count by doing that. Maybe that ends up being better as a whole. But I think if you're trying to do Mardu with Delney shoved in, I don't know that you're better served by just like playing the stock Mardu list. I don't know that Delney adds enough there. Whereas in this build, conceptually doubling up Esper Sentinel and Hexing Squelcher and these other triggers is a bigger deal. I don't know that I would put my competitive seal of approval on this, like you should play this in a challenge. But this was a solid attempt at making Delney work. But Delney as a 3-mana creature with no ETB is rough. A lot of times you don't get value on it until the next turn. But it is kind of crazy when you do get to like attack, Voice of Victory triggers twice, Guide of Souls triggers twice. It does have the potential to do broken things, but I don't know if in actual Legacy play it ends up being broken consistently enough to want to do it. Sunbaked Canyon doesn't line up well versus Bowmasters. I did not mind having this in the deck, but in the Bowmasters matchups, especially the Mardu Pseudomere, it felt very bad. I don't mind being Wasteland lighter. The sideboard tools felt appropriate. We kind of lucked out versus Ensnaring Bridge, getting paired against it after I said we were going to be bad against it. So, brewers out there, there's some food for thought for you, and I'm going to go ahead and call it a day here. I hope you all enjoyed, and I hope you have a great rest of the day. See ya!